It's more of an endearing hug than a sensual one. But of course, the Ace of Pentacles for the Louis Royo one, the Louis Royo is saying sensual, orgasm. So maybe you'll get both this weekend. That'd be awesome. Hello, this is Weird Corbett, and I thought I'd just throw out a fun Valentine's Day, Valentine's weekend type of reading. Not with a sun print this time, just with tarot cards actually, and not oracle decks. But they are they're not very traditional tarot card decks, so I'll probably be using them more like oracle cards anyways, just more intuitive than anything. They are the Louis Royal Dark Tarot and the Wandering Spirit Tarot. So since it's just sort of more for fun, I thought I'd just use, and we're not using any sun prints or anything. I thought I'd just use a random spread from the internet for Valentine's Day just for fun. And I think I'm gonna. What I normally do is I like to, if when I use tarot cards or I'm just using oracle or tarot cards for a reading and not a sun print, is I like to double them up. I guess I sort of do that with the sun prints too, where I have two for the past influences and two for the current or future influences, so I'm sort of doubling them up there. So yeah, I'll pull one card for each. I will pull the Louis Royo Dark Tarot card first because it's slightly bigger than the other card for the first position of the spread. So a summary or an overall theme for the day for Valentine's Day, or maybe just for the Valentine's week in general, but the general overall theme of this reading for those for at least Valentine's Day, if not the whole weekend. So let's see what we pull out there. That came up quick. And then I'll pull from the Wandering Spirit Tarot. Oop, I guess that one's popped out right there. Okay, so for the first position, which is like the overall theme of the Valentine's Day or the weekend maybe in general, from the Louis Royal deck, we got the Ace of Pentacles, which is a woman scantily clad with some robe, looking like she's walking up an altar to like almost like an Aztec style of skull up some stairs to that, and it looks like there's some roots or snakes along the stairways. So the Louis Royo deck came with one of those little tiny books, those little tiny paper books with the deck. I find these aren't as great as some of the other, like the Oracle decks. They really put a lot of effort into. Usually they put a lot of effort into their descriptions with little books that they come with them, and then these little paper tarot card ones that like just get kind of shoved as an afterthought into the deck. They're not quite as helpful sometimes, but I mean it's worth looking up anyways. Just to have just to see, just an extra thing to go off of. So it says for the Ace of Pentacles it is triumph, embarking on the chosen ways to be seated at the great table, the miracle of unity and of the orgasm, sensual pleasure, ecstasy, flesh and riches. See, yeah, the Louis Royo deck's not letting us down as far as the sensuality side of it. That's one of the reasons I picked it for Valentine's Day. I mean, what better day than Valentine's Day for this? So there will be some of these cards that when I take the picture, I'll have to put something over certain spots on them. The Louis Royo deck is definitely not such a PG deck, but I'm not making videos for children, so hopefully you're mature enough for what this has to say. So the overall theme, I guess, could possibly be a very sensual theme for your Valentine's Day, which good on you. And then for the other card, it is the Ten of Cups, and it actually looks very sweet. It has a flesh and blood girl with a skeleton they're both on their knees giving each other a hug, and the skeleton's head's in between her boobs, but it looks more endearing than sensual. But I mean, if the Louis Royo deck has anything to say, but I guess it can be sensual anyways. And I guess that's fitting because Ten of Cups often is associated with joy and family and contentment. It's usually that one in the traditional tarot deck where it has like the rainbow with the cups, and then like husband and wife or adult female male kind of like with their backs towards us, but like a happy sort of celebratory stance, and like a kid or two kids off to the side, little just very content sort of understanding of that card usually has the benefits of love and security and family, which yeah, this like I said, this card has the skeletons like they're hugging each other, they're on their knees hugging each other, and it's more of an endearing hug than a sensual one. But of course the Ace of Pentacles for the Louis Royo one, the Louis Royo is saying sensual, orgasm. So maybe you'll get both this weekend. That'd be awesome. Have a very like endearing, emotional most of the day, and a fun bedtime day or wherever it might be. So these cards seem actually sort of fitting for the whole Valentine's theme, I suppose. The imagery is a little different than like the Louis Royal. I would not have guessed that's what like the girls has like she's basically naked with her robe sort of draped down over her shoulders, but showing the whole body from the back. So I guess there's a sensuality there. I wouldn't get orgasm from this card though. Unless the circle around the skull is supposed to be like a symbolism for something. I would get more if there's any sort of sensuality in this card. It's more of like there's definitely more of a spiritual tone to it. It's more of a worshiping type of tone to it, which I mean that can be fun too. And definitely if there was going to be a theme between the imagery here, it would be more of that sacredness of connection with someone, that sacredness of sensuality. Nothing wrong with a good old orgasm, but the sacredness of it just amps it up a little bit too. So that just sounds like a lovely theme for your Valentine's Day and or Valentine's weekend. Let's see what the rest of it has to elaborate on it. So the second position is where are you gonna get the feelings from? What's gonna get you in your feelings this weekend? The first card from the Louis Royo deck is the Ten of Wands, and it is of a very sort of warrior looking girl, scantily clad again, but with red tattoos, very sort of tribal tattoos, but red, not black. The card's mostly gray tones, and then the red really stands out. And looks like she has some swords or something on her back, like in one of those slings on her back. Fancy jewelry and all the rest of it. If you know Louis Royal, the artist, and you probably have an understanding of what I'm saying here. So the little book that came with the Louis Royal says, for the Ten of Wands, is the dreams are heavy and do not know how to fly. Excessive pressure does not allow for movement, and the quest for revenge may taint the need for justice. Which is interesting because usually the 10 in tarot is like a completion thing. But this is almost starting like your whatever this revenge is you have is unfulfilled, and therefore I would think starting, or maybe even if it's unfulfilled and you can't move forward with it, then there would be another starting journey of dealing with whatever revenge fantasies you have, and working through those. So it would still be a start. And I guess usually an end is also a start. Like the beginning and the end are usually like the same. They're or like a turning point from one to the other. But in tarot you have the usually the Jack or the Knight and the King and the Queen. So there's that space in between those. So that's an odd description for a 10. Anyways, if we skip that last bit and just go with the dreams are heavy and do not know how to fly. Excessive pressure does not allow for movement. And we've already had like there's going to be a theme, a very sensual, possible sexual theme. It sounds like there might be some blocks with getting that going. You're going to get in your feelings. Maybe things aren't going to move in the way you want them to move for the weekend. Or maybe because it says your dreams are heavy, maybe you're in a funk for this weekend and it's not seeming like it's going to go the way you want it to go. That could be a possibility here. But it's like the Ten of Wands. It just seems weird that that's what they put for the 10. The picture, if we're going to go with more of the picture and more of an intuitive stance on it, the expression on her face, I mean, you could probably read it in a couple different ways, but it's more almost like a questioning. It's more like a waiting and a questioning. Like, what are you going to do? Less of a, like, still very secure of herself. She's like this warrior girl, but more questioning what you're going to do next. Like, how is this going to go? So maybe we'll go with that. And then the other card for this position is the Star, and it has, I think this whole deck is this like sort of flesh girl with no real face on it, and the skeleton, and in this card she's sitting on the skeleton's lap, and they both have a jug that they're pouring the water or whatever out of, and the skeleton has sort of looking up to the sky and cupping one of the stars. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 stars, and the skeleton's sort of looking up wistfully to one of these stars that he's sort of cupping. I don't know if the skeleton's a he or not. I'm just saying he. I don't know why. And it is a little suggestive. I don't know if they mean it to be suggestive like this, but the position of like the fluid that is flowing out, I'm going to see water because it's water in most other decks when it comes to the star, is running down her leg in a sort of questionable way. It would go along with the whole orgasm theme, I think. So the star traditionally has like that sort of like hope, guidance, inspiration type of thing. Often it's the wish. A lot of people refer to it as like a wish card. And I guess that sort of goes along with the heavy dreams idea from the Ten of Wands that Louis Royal deck was talking about. So what's going to get you in your feelings this weekend is going to be something to do around your dreams, your wishes, what you think is going to be happening this weekend. It might not be turning out the way you want it to, but they both came in an upright position, although I tend to read primarily in upright positions anyways. Sometimes it sneaks in the other way though. So I feel like the what's going to get in your feelings is you think you're going to be in maybe a bit of a funk. You're not thinking that you're not going to be getting what you want, but you still might be getting something, whatever that might be. It just might not be the way that you thought you're going to receive whatever you thought you're going to receive on Valentine's Day. Whether you have a partner and you thought they were going to do one thing for you, they don't do that, but you guys end up doing something else. Or if you're spending your weekend alone. Maybe you thought you're going to hang out with friends or something and it didn't work out, but you get to do something fun on your own. Or you thought you had plans to have, like, I don't know, some sort of fancy dinner for yourself or some sort of treat. Didn't work out, but you found something else to do. I think it's going to be one of those type of things where your plans don't work out exactly as you want, but you're going to find a way to celebrate in a sensuous sort of way. Your overall theme is sensuous. So maybe you don't get a physical orgasm, but you go get some really good food and you get a food orgasm, or you get a music orgasm, or something works for you this weekend that gets you into your feelings. Getting you into your feelings is going to be a little bit of a sense of disappointment, I think, but it's going to turn around. It's just not going to be what you think it was going to be. I think that's where we're going with this, at least as far as that goes. The third one is what sort of desires are going to pop up this weekend. And for that, we got one of my favorites. There's a couple of different Louis Royal pictures that have kind of stuck with me before I even got this deck. And this is one of the ones, usually the ones that have more of the blue tones. A lot of them have like a really sort of like a brown and burnt earthy tone. But some of them have like this like really grayish blue tone, which is nice too. Anyways, this is the Six of Wands. And it has a different sort of warrior girl, again with swords on her back. She has a little bit more clothes on. She at least has her all her bits covered. And she has some sort of cloak that's not covering her, it's just behind her, and very long hair. Looks like she has some sort of tattoos as well, but not as prominent as the other card. And this one is her walking under the full moon. So, interesting what the Louis Royal book has to say. That's a little different than normal traditional tarot. So let's have a look and see what they have to say for the Six of Wands. The stranger is a warrior. She carries a burden of solitude and purpose, but she is not actually, that sort of fits in with the other one. That is like, if you were to think of that as the unfulfilled wish but turning out in a different way. So that maybe that whatever that is, however it's going to turn out, ends up sparking some desire in you in some way, shape, or form. That would be nice if that happened. Also, in this card, she's under the full moon, and typically the full moon is about some hidden things sometimes and whatnot. So that is sort of fitting in this way too. Maybe it is whatever that turn of events that you don't necessarily get what you want, but you got this other thing coming on, and that brings out some sort of sensuality, some sort of desire. It sparks something in you. Or maybe if you have a partner or someone that you're hanging out with on Valentine's Day, they have some nice little surprise for you. That would be nice too. The other card for this position is a Nine of Pentacles, and in this one, last time I said I thought it was all like this girl and the skeleton. This is one where there is no skeleton, but she does have an owl with her, perched on her arm. She's sitting with a full moon, I'm guessing, behind her head as well. So we have that full moon again. Sort of like in a garden. It looks like she's sitting with the owl on her arm. And she's looking away from the owl. But I guess it's sort of fitting because in like the traditional Nine of Pentacles, I think like this typically a woman in a garden with a bird. And this one is an owl. And it's at nighttime because I'm pretty sure that's a moon behind her head. This deck likes to have a little, again, like the Louis Royal, a little bit of a darker theme. So an owl, I guess, is fitting for that. So it's supposed to be like comfort and stability, but we have that owl there too. So to me, owls tend to have like that symbology of like wisdom and that quiet watching, because they're a very quiet bird. They're a very quiet hunter, and they are very observant. They have very good eyesight and very good hearing. They're a very observant nighttime bird. So you're comfortable, you're being very observant. So how I would possibly they might link together in my mind is if this is you're not getting what you originally were planning for this weekend or what you're originally hoping for, but there's some sort of surprise or there's some sort of like a turnaround where something else is happening that is turning out to be, or will turn out to be, hopefully, just as good or good in its own way, fun in its own way, possibly. But as far as your desires go, you're a little on the fence because you're you're not expecting this. It's not what you were planning for. So you're a little reserved about it, but you're not close to it, is what I'm getting from this. But it is a little bit of a surprise. Like the moon is in both of these cards. So that desire that's coming up, it's either from a surprise, possibly from something unexpected, or the desire itself is unexpected. And I mean, in this card with the owl, she's sort of turning her head away from the owl, even though she has the owl perched on her arm. So it might be something she was either unaware of, or she's having a little bit of difficulty accepting it. So like in the Lewis Royal deck, she's not there to be an enemy. And I think that if you're going to try and combine these two, the owl is not there as an enemy. The hidden aspect is not there as an enemy. The hidden desire is not there as an enemy. It might be a little unnerving at first, but I think there'll be a quick turnaround, I think, because I think you're going to have some fun with it. You might have to grapple with like the idea of it. Like it'll have a little bit of shadow work for you this weekend, a little bit. I don't think it's going to be too intense. Maybe for some of you is. If you have some intense shadow work to do and you feel like sharing it, please go ahead and share. Maybe people have some suggestions for you if it's something that you need to work through. I kind of get the feeling that it's going to be a little more lighthearted than something heavy work, but it might be different for everyone. It might just be a very unexpected, and you're going to have to take a moment to step back and go, oh, this might be good. Maybe let's give it a shot. Whatever that might be. The overall theme seems to be that it's going to be some sort of sensual theme. But sensuality can come in a lot of different ways. The Lewis Royal deck was it did actually throw an orgasm there, so I mean, it might be that way. But like I said, it could also be like the sensuality and like the orgasm of other types of sensuality too. There isn't just one type of sensuality. You can have it through, like, sensuality is through your senses. Yes, that can be feeling and touching. It can also be sight and sound and taste and all of that. You combine them all together, that's going to be a fun night. So the fourth position is, what should you be focusing on? And for the Lewis Royal deck, we got the Three of Wands, and it actually has a very contemplative woman. She actually looks like she's wearing decent amount of clothing. She looks like she's wearing some sort of pants, maybe a little sheer, but still pants. Her hair is up. It looks like she's put her spears or her swords or whatever off to the side, sitting on some sort of rune or rock cliff, with her elbows on her knees and just staring forward on a cloudy sky, contemplating, which seems like it fits this whole, what should you be focusing on? It seems like you're mulling over something a little bit. So the Lewis Royal deck says practical knowledge, understanding yourself, understanding your enemy, waiting for the right moment. So practical knowledge and understanding yourself, I don't think whoever it is, I don't think they're your enemy, but they might come across that. You might be, I think enemy is a strong word for this scenario. I think somebody that you might be at odds with a little bit, but I don't think you're going to stay at odds with them all day or all weekend. I think it's just something you got, like, you're taken off guard a little bit, wasn't what you're expecting. But once you got to think about it a bit, you're like, oh, okay. Either that, or if you're by yourself, it's not with another person, and it's like this hidden desire, hidden whatever. It's your shadow self, and that is not your enemy. But sometimes we pit ourselves against ourselves in that way. We're not ready to accept some things, and this might take a moment or two to accept. Whatever this hidden aspect of yourself is that you have to go, oh, that's there. Oh, okay. How am I going to deal with that? The other card, and this one is just a skeleton. The girl's not there. It is the Three of Swords, and it has the moon behind it again. The moon is behind it again. And it's sort of kneeling on the ground with its arms stretched open. So the Three of Swords is typically your heartbreak card that a lot of people get. It's usually in the typical traditional decks is like a heart with the three swords stabbed through it. Heartbreak, pain, sorrows, that type of thing. But it can also be like when you reveal a truth that you're not ready for, or you're not quite ready for, there can be a little bit of pain in that as well. It doesn't have to necessarily be over a person. It can be over a person, or it could be reflecting on past people too. And quite frankly, in what's been going on in the world right now, we're all sort of in a grieving of what once was. Things are turned upside down all over the place. And I remember reading this the other day that there's a lot of people going to their therapist, and a lot of them are describing this sort of remorse or grief over a timeline or a life that is now lost, that there's no way we're going to go back to certain things, certain naiveties, certain mindsets of everything's hunky-dory, we just have to do A, B, C, and D. We have taken off the masks, and we are now having to deal with the reality of what the world we live in. And some of it is not so nice. Some of it definitely has to change. That's why this needed to happen in some cases. It's horrible, some of the things that have been happening. We all wish it never had to get to this point, but hopefully the facing the reality will mean that we start to deal with the reality. And I'm thinking that something similar might be going on here. Because again, the moon card goes back to the last position of desires and whatnot. So yeah, it's going to take a moment. It's going to take a moment of reality like hitting you that, oh, this is how things is. I wasn't expecting this. This wasn't what I was thinking. How am I going to integrate this? How do I accept this? And it might take you a minute. This is what you should be focusing on. Like, yeah, I think there is going to be some fun this weekend. There's going to be some surprise this weekend. You don't need to take it to a dark space. You just need to accept it and integrate it. Face the reality of it. You don't have to give it more meaning than is actually there. You don't have to, like, when I get depressed or anxious or something, I have to reel myself back and go, okay, whatever the issue is, this is the problem, and it is what it is. Name it. But I don't have to add to it. I don't have to add to the problem or the issue. I don't have to create all these scenarios around it. I don't have to say, well, if this is A, B, C, and D, then that means E, F, and J, K, L, Z, whatever else. It doesn't have to be all that. I can let the reality realize itself and I can witness it. But I witness the reality of it. So yeah, there might be some desires that pop up for you that we weren't expecting this weekend, but it could also be whatever you were expecting this weekend that didn't turn out. It could be facing the reality of that. Was it actually what you wanted? Is it how important was that to you, and what did it represent to you? And maybe what it represented to you isn't really what you wanted, or what it represented to you is what you wanted, but the actual thing was sort of just a facade. You didn't need the facade, you needed what it represented. And maybe you got what you needed, but in a different way. Possibly. That's sort of what I keep coming back to with this. That's what I would say for this reading too. There's a little bit of a grief over you're missing the facade a little bit. The facade is I would say that's where the grief is that the idealism around this is you're not getting that. You're getting the reality. Reality sometimes doesn't seem as magical, but it can be a hell of a lot stronger. And if you had your mind all wrapped up in the ideal thing, the fantasy of it, then if you have your mind and your heart wrapped up around that for a long time, then it can be a little bit of disappointing when that doesn't happen in that way. But you have to remind yourself that what you ultimately wanted, the reality underneath that, the feeling underneath that, what you wanted to get from it, that's what's important. And it can be so much more in different scenarios or different ways. Yet you're just not aware of that. You just didn't realize how it was going to hit you in that way. So be open to things, meet things head on, meet the reality of things head on. Don't try to put a fantasy around it. Enjoy what you can from it, because it sounds like it could be fun if you can let go of the not getting it in the way you wanted to get it. If you can enjoy it for what it is, the reality of what it is, it could be so much more possibly. But that requires you checking in with yourself and, making that connection for yourself, letting go of the things that aren't reality and embracing the things that are reality, and really making the most of the things that are reality. So the last position is a message for self-reflection. That last card sort of seemed like the self-reflection thing, but maybe the cards have more advice with the last position. So for the last position, we have the Luis Royo Judgment card, and it's an angel, which is typical for a Judgment card, and she's at the seashore. She is fully clothed. Only her shoulders and some of her forearm and her neck and her face is showing. Everything else is clothed, which is refreshing for this deck. She's standing on a rock at the ocean, and you can't tell if it's her dress or if it's the ocean that's sort of splashing out there. Sunset or sunrise, either or. She has her hand on her chest and the other hand towards the water. A very sort of serene feeling to it. But let's see what the little book has to say, because that thing is a little different from traditional readings, traditional decks. Beyond the battlefield, there is place of silence and harmony, of hope and forgiveness. It's the cradle of higher self, a crucible of acceptance and love for yourself. It's the end of the fight, not through victory and neither through surrender. That seems like it actually sort of fits along with this, is you come to some sort of conclusion where you're not fighting yourself anymore. It's the end. You get to, you sort through your feelings and your feelings around your feelings, and you get to a place of acceptance. It's not a strong, it's a victory, but it's not like a strong victory, and it's not a defeat because it's against yourself. It's you're doing some shadow work. So it's a place of acceptance, of calmness, of peace, of serenity. You're good with it. You've made your peace with it. So hopefully this isn't going to be something huge and it wraps up in a day or so. It might go longer than a day or so, because sometimes shadow work does not tie up that neatly. But at the end of it, you should be in acceptance of it. The second card is the Wheel of Fortune. And this one has the two of them again. They're in a circle and they're sort of, the girl is sort of draping her arms over the skeleton, and the skeleton's hugging her legs, and they're just like in a circular type of motion. Actually, they kind of create almost that sort of yin yang S shape with their bodies. And there's a moon again in the center. Not all the cards in this deck have that moon, but the moon is in the last couple cards. So the Wheel of Fortune is sort of like they usually call it like a fate, or like you're changing direction or intuition, but it's usually a positive change of some sort. You might have things from the past reappear, or you might have new things starting. Generally, it's usually a good thing, even if it like doesn't necessarily seem like it. Again, it's sort of like that not necessarily getting what you want, but you're getting it in a different way type of thing. It's a changing, it's a turning of the wheel. It's a cyclical thing. I guess that sort of fits with this as well. Is you're not necessarily getting this might open up new avenues for you to explore. It might be something like sometimes it'll be a change of career, or a new partner or something like that. But it doesn't have to be that big. It can be just an internal change that you know, oh, I'm gonna explore this aspect of myself now, or maybe you'll pick up a new hobby or something like that, with something that sort of relates to it in a way that you're gonna want to explore this new aspect of yourself in some way, shape, or form. That's gonna open up some possible new avenues for you. They might be big avenues, or they might be little small avenues of thought process and reflection and all that. The new perspective for your life or your internal life, outer life, whatever. But you are going to come to terms that are acceptance of it. And it's interesting that the overall theme for this is again that whole sensuality. So it sounds like you're going to have an interesting weekend. You're going to have a little bit of self-discovery going on. You're going to have to work through it a little bit because you weren't expecting it. But ultimately, it seems like it still might be fun. Hopefully. It does seem like that. Because yes, the first card with the Louis Royo was talking about sensuality and orgasm and stuff like that. But the overall theme between the two cards is more of a sacredness to that sensuality, a sacredness to that intimacy. So whether that's a new connection to yourself that you weren't expecting, or a new connection with somebody else, a new way to express either one of those types of connections. It could be any of that, but it's going to be a little bit of self-reflection. And that in itself, especially like whether it's a self-reflection that you do on your own, that can be intimacy with yourself. That can be a way of building up intimacy with yourself, possibly in a sensual way, sexual way, but also possibly in just a very intimate, personal way. Like it doesn't have to always be physical, you know? And same with another person. It can be a way of deepening that intimacy if you're going through a self reflective moment and you have to work through a little bit of stuff, but ultimately you're going to be good. You're going to accept it. You're going to come to be on good terms with it. It adds that little extra level to things that you don't always get if it's just surface level. It's definitely going to be more than a surface level type of weekend, even if that more is with yourself. Ideally, if you have a partner, it's always good to go a little bit more than surface level as well. It maybe that was the whole thing, is that you thought it was going to be a very sort of fun, flirty, surface level type of weekend, and it turns out to be a little bit deeper than you thought it was going to be. But ultimately, you seem to come to acceptance and good terms with it, and you have something new to contemplate and discover about yourself, or possibly about your relationship. So yeah, it started off really good and fun and it's kind of spicy, and then it got a little uh-oh, what's going on here, but it ultimately ends in acceptance and a little bit wiser for it. And from that point on, once you accept some aspect of yourself like that, it can, and especially the Wheel of Fortune there's so many different possibilities that you can take that once you accept the reality of whatever that is. In this case, you're talking about desires, possibly. Desires doesn't have to be spicy, but it can be. It could just be other, like, desires to create something like art, but it could be other things too. Whatever works for you. It looks like it could be a fun weekend, an introspective weekend, which can be fun too. I know some people don't like having to be introspective and like doing a little bit of the hard work. This doesn't seem like it's going to be like super hard work. It could be, but it just seems like you're going to get some more insights than you had before the weekend. I personally love those. I love that little bit of, as long as it's not like devastating, and I don't think this is going to be a devastating thing. You seem to come to terms with this, like the last position is definitely sort of solidifying that you're coming to terms with it relatively quickly. Like again, it might take a little bit longer than the weekend, but ultimately you're going to be okay with this. It's just sort of a shock that you weren't expecting this, and you had to sit with it for a moment. If this resonates with anybody, let me know. You don't have to give me all the little gory details in case it is a little bit spicy. Whatever you want to share, you can, I guess, as long as it's within YouTube guidelines. But yeah, it'd be nice to know if anybody resonates with this, and I hope we all have a fun weekend, and are a little bit wiser for it by the end of it. Anyways, bye.